Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked came against me to eat up my flesh, my enemies and foes, they stumbled and fell. Though an army may encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war may rise against me, in this I will be confident. One thing I have desired of the Lord, that will I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion, in the secret place of his tabernacle he shall hide me. He shall set me high upon a rock. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies all around me. Therefore I will offer sacrifices of joy in his tabernacle. I will sing, yes, I will sing praises to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me, and answer me.
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, east, west, north, south, central, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. Yes, of course, that is the what is called the village, the African village, the Emancipation Village. You name it, that's where we had celebrated, of course, the last couple of days or several days. And of course, in memory of, but at the same time celebrating contemporarily our African heritage. And yes, indeed, of course, the Prime Minister was among them. Not only at the African Village when it was open, or the Emancipation Village when it was open at the Queen's Park Savannah, but also, of course, to give that lustily speech that we have to, by necessity, extrapolate, and to, of course, see what it means for the African community. Of course, this is post-Emancipation Day, but of course, the Emancipation Legacy, the Emancipation Thrust, the Emancipation Endeavor, the Emancipation Imperative must go on, must live on, and it must be, as I said, a perennial affair. Every day we must live it. But that being as it may, of course, I have a wonderful program tonight. Let me say, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry in Trinidad, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are streaming on the World Wide Web. A pleasant good day to you. This is, yes, the Corridor Transformation, your host, Lennox Smith, and of course, we are doing it for you and with you until 9:30 tonight. But of course, there are a number of things that we have to also look at. Why is, of course, the whole process of that, what I consider to be ritual, that repetitive process annually. But as I said on the last occasion, there is a need for vision, there is a need for unanimous direction, there is a need for a level of consciousness among the African community, and that could only be realized with, of course, the bridging of that gap that I consider to be that leadership deficit. We'll talk a little more about that tonight, but we'll also, of course, look at what the government of today has said in order to put things in perspective and maybe to see a coming together, what I consider to be colliding, or maybe more specifically, apexing, coming together for the development of the African community in Trinidad and Tobago. We will look at that. I will highlight some of the things and see whether or not that will facilitate the advancement of the African community in Trinidad and Tobago. But before we go there, let me say to you Those of you who are on YouTube, well, of course, you can log on to the Corridor Transformation or Corridor Transformation on YouTube. So we are there live. And on Facebook, of course, you log on not to Corridor Transformation. I want to tell you that because you will be in for a rude awakening. And rude here is not said sparingly or in any way, not even facetiously, but with a high degree, of course, of caution that you should not go and log on to Corridor Transformation on Facebook, because you will get a rude awakening. I mean that literally. However, you can log on to Alfred John on Facebook, and you will be able, of course, to get us right now as I speak or as we speak. That being as it may, let me say to you that emphasis must be on the advancement of the African community in all of its various components in Trinidad and Tobago. On the last occasion, of course, I made reference to the mono-ethnic, what I consider to be countries right here in the Caribbean. In other words, where Africans would have dominated, whether it's Grenada, St. Vincent, Dominica, or whether it be, of course, even Tobago, I put in that category. I place in that category of a mono society where we have seen, whether you like it or not, the population had to participate in the economic, the social, the sporting, the cultural, the religious, and of course all other aspects or variables that are now commonplace for the advancement or for the sustenance of contemporary societies. And we have seen a different situation between Trinidad and indeed Tobago, and indeed, of course, Grenada, St. Vincent, etc. And that is because of the almost equal, in terms of numbers, presence of Indians and Africans in Trinidad. And therefore, we cannot boast of having a mono-ethnic group, as is the case in Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent, etc. And that brings a number of challenges. And what we have seen in those challenges is about, of course, competition for the limited resources, or put another way, for the resources that we were blessed with, or we are blessed with. Whether it's in the education field, the academic field, whether it is in the vocational field, the business field, whether it be in the professions, high, low, and middle, the fact of the matter is that we are in a competitive environment. But not only are we internationally or internally have to compete, but as Tobago will know, as Grenada will know, as St. Vincent will know, even though there is not much competition because of the mono nature of the racial composition on these islands, they have to compete with the rest of the world, the rest of the region, in order, of course, to make certain that they are able to satisfy the fundamental, in particular, needs of their population and desires. That is how it is. And of course, I don't need to tell you that, of course, a major component of that is the governance arrangement. I don't need to tell you that. The governance arrangement. At the same time, let me say, of course, the lines are open, 337-6940. And somebody told me, and they asked me to remember to, of course, view. Yeah, press. Make sure that you make yourself present on the chat as well as we go inevitably to, of course, that 40,000 that we are looking for. Yes, I'm now satisfied that the quality and the presentation is no longer an issue because it is of a high standard. And I want to thank, of course, one of the ardent supporters from the United States. No, he's from Canada, who has furnished us with new cameras. Yes. And of course, I got a headphone from someone right here in Trinidad. I want to thank them. Of course, I wouldn't use it in the night. And the complaints, of course, on the ground report on mornings, so I have to wear it on mornings. But in the night, I am my own boss, so to speak. And I think we are doing well in terms of course, not having to utilize it. I want to say, of course, at the same time, I want to get straight to the crux of the matter, the essentials of the matter. Because, you see, up to when Kamala Prasad Bisesa made her statement at the Savannah, the Queen's Park Savannah, yesterday on the occasion of emancipation, talking about Friday. Yes, indeed. I was convinced that there is a hopelessness that seemed to be in the atmosphere that pervades and that have invaded the leadership imperative of the African community. And I said so, of course, given the examples of what the former Prime Minister Rowley would have said when he said that, of course, he is disappointed and that the African community, of course, is a hopeless basket case. That is essentially what he would have meant by that, and that we are at the lowest rung of the socio-economic and I dare say psychocultural ladder in Trinidad and Tobago. But it's very strange indeed, because I think I better say this as well, that coming from Dr. Rowley, you had to take it with not a pinch or a barrow, but a truckload of salt. You see, because I lived to see sometime afterwards at the Success Laventil Secondary School, when he was making a pitch for the advancement or the ambition or generating a sort of motivation for the African community. He made reference, of course, to an African family in New York that would be getting or have been getting a lot of contracts relating to airports. And he made that reference because he was reading some magazine, and that issue attracted his attention. So he goes up to Laventil and he says, of course, to the people there, that you can become like them. But when we examine the real reason behind him, suddenly, like some kind of epiphany, or getting some kind of what I consider to be eureka moment, you suddenly get bright. But more importantly, conscious about the plight of the African community and the fact that they have to advance and they have the capacity to, of course, advance like anybody else. I was feeling good. At least it was hopeful for Rowley, in my view. But then came the punchline that scuttled, that threw down that can of milk and turned it into a can of worms later down the road, when he said, he was saying all that to protect and to advance his friend, the Warners from Tobago, when the people were saying that why it is that the Warners, according to him, can't leave Tobago and come and do big contracts in Trinidad too. And of course, we have examined that already and know that nothing Rowley says could be taken at face value. There is always something sinister. I told you about, of course, Stuart Young indicating that they clean a ship graveyard on Sealots, and he was peddling the idea of the story, utilizing state funds, that the beach is so clean now that the young people could go and play, and people could have picnics, and they could of course fraternize and so on, and have a nice family day and so on, and get together, and of course camaraderie. Only to find out ultimately that the same owner has a batching plant down there, a cement plant, and that was really cleared for him to bring in as close to shore as possible. In other words, generate a port, create a port so that he can ship items from his batching plant, his cement batching plant or his concrete batching plant from Trinidad to Tobago and vice versa. That is why he said that. Well, the same thing happened at that attempt by Rowley on the face of it to tell us that we could make it too, and therefore we must emulate Warner and they, only to find out that Warner and they were given special attention by the Rowley government, by the PNM government, and that is why they could have come artificially, not by natural competition, artificially, and of course do business in Trinidad, and of course at the same time giving them over 100 acres of land ostensibly for animal husbandry. But it turned out, of course, to be quarry land that they could extract minerals. And of course, it is not uncommon, and it is public knowledge that the Warners were charged for illegal quarrying. And it's also public knowledge that they got a helping hand from the state at the same time, because while they were on charge, while they have to attend court to answer those charges, they were handed a provisional permit to quarry, for quarrying in Trinidad. A provisional permit to quarry in Trinidad, while of course having been charged by the police for illegal quarrying. So the point I am making here, and let us not waste time, that it was about those who they prefer and rather, and Warners of course were especially anointed by Rowley and they to empty the treasury, to have access to the treasury. No other African in Laventille, Beetham, Sealots, but yet still he comes to Laventille and give us this cock and bull story of extreme insincerity that the African community can be like those persons that he mentioned in New York, and then of course brought what he wanted to say to the fore by protecting and defending the Warners, who have been given state protection by way of contracts, because he, Rowley, is affiliated and associated with the Warners. And don't tell me you don't know about INS Gate, you know. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me you don't know about Rowley and his children getting, of course, townhouses at INS Gate. Don't tell me you don't know that the former governor of the central bank, and of course his friends in Paria and Heritage, who have Tobago roots, would have been living next to him. And of course, that facility was constructed by Warner. And it became in itself a controversy when Rowley got his townhouse cheaper than everybody else. Remember that? That required, of course, the investigation of the Integrity Commission. So the point I am making is that when you have a leadership claiming to be guiding and the vision and the force and the conscience and consciousness of the African community, and you have a fella like Rowley, you have to examine the horns. Examine the horns. And that is why I was so vitriolic. I was so excoriating as far as these people are concerned, because they have no loyalty to their own kind. They see their own kind as exploitative, so that those that fall through the cracks, in this case, of course, they select out and therefore pursue an elitist agenda, and to hell with the rest. And don't tell me that I know what I'm talking about, because when Rowley came up to Laventille, when he first came into office in 2015, he said in no uncertain terms, he used Laventille to do it, by saying that the people must wean off the government. He said it in Laventille. He wouldn't go down Westmoreland and say that. He wouldn't go in any well-to-do community and say that. He said it in Laventille because he believes that not only are we fools, and that we will gobble up by the fake leadership that they project, claiming that they love us, as they went into the Beetham and tell the Beetham is a special place and has special problems, and of course suggesting that when he gets into government, because he was talking that when he was in opposition, did the Beetham benefit anything? Only recently, Wassa had to be down there with Karim, looking at drains that have been plaguing that place from time immemorial. Plaguing that place. In fact, Karim used the term historically. Historically, not realizing that he's a member of the PNM, and the PNM would have been there first, but more importantly, longer than anybody else. And secondly, that of course that is a die-hard PNM area, but yet still, he's talking historically, the drains have not been cleaned. Drains have not been cleaned. $100 and something billion filtered away. And they still, of course, have to get the stench of raw sewer at time from the toilet bowls of the entire Port of Spain and environs when they flush, to take it by way of pipes to the facility just north of the Beetham. Yes, that sewer facility managed by Wassa, just south of the Beetham. But before it reaches there, it has to pass through or pass in pipes, large pipes on their way there. And sometimes when it is clogged, the manhole that covers those entry points, if you want to call it that, or those breathing points, or those access points to the pipe below the earth, or below Beetham, when it clogs, the effluent and the solid, at times, feces are therefore subjected, of course, to all kinds of waterborne disease. These people have been subjected to from time immemorial. From time immemorial. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Hello? Yeah. I'm on the program now. Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, so we see. It's fresh 9:30. Okay. All right then. Yes, indeed. Yes, people. That is the reality. How the hell you could say you love us? And mind you, it's not once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. It appears that it is idiosyncratic. It appears that it is stereotypical. It appears that it's the normative behavior to fool us. You see, I'm laying the foundation for what Kamala Prasad Bisesa said yesterday. I'm laying the foundation. You see, he also gave us, when he was battling Manning, and the question of the construction of Napa came up. The National Academy for the Performing Arts came up opposite Memorial Park and south of the Queen's Park Savannah. When that came up, he claimed that as Minister of Planning, he didn't know there was a hotel to be erected within, and chose that opportunity of lack of knowledge, according to him. But now we know that we must not believe one iota of what this man says, but always something sinister he had in mind. So the idea was, of course, to challenge Manning. So he said in the parliament that not one person from Beetham, not one person from Belmont, not one person from Diego Martin, not one person from Laventille got any job on the construction of Napa. Not one. Not one. So he loved the African brothers and sisters. And when, of course, the SOE was announced in 2011, there he went again, loving the African brothers and saying that it was designed for Africans to lock them up. And he was all bleeding and of course concerned, bleed-hearted and concerned. Bleeding and concerned about, of course, the African brothers and sisters and the young people. That is what he did to us. That is what he did to us. He, Rowley, and the PNM. And today, they have the audacity, the temerity, and the God before they genuflect, they kneel down and say on Emancipation Day, sorry to the African community. They up and down the place like big buffoons and buffaloes. Big buffoons and buffaloes. And then when the question of the 100 days nearing of the present administration term in office so far come up, they said in no uncertain terms that the Kamala Prasad Bisesa administration, UNC, and the coalition of interests, they have been inhumane, they have been insensitive. And of course, referring to the very people whose backs they rode, never getting them out of the quagmire of poverty and decadence, and of course low esteem, and of course not being able to evolve over time, but instead, of course, wallow in decadence. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night to you, Uncle Lennox, and to all your listeners.
Yes, man.
Please share the live and tell others, and that this is Emancipation Day. Please free all your wallet, free up all your wallet, and free up that finance. A little $2. Yes, give it give it the freedom to go by Uncle Lennox and be used in the right way so it will leave a mark on this earth. So Uncle Lennox, happy Emancipation Day to you and the diaspora that you serve, and you look to really bring them out of this bondage. So show them what is true way of life and what is Mama Guy. Because you're talking about Alawana, and then you're talking about the next one. But what I want to warn you is that a man have a company, he get $1 million to talk to the dead in Miami. And then he get US to buy a business in Miami. So, because the company is a Trinidad-based organization with roots up the Caribbean. So I was wondering, that big company, that same grocery, warehouse grocery they call it, where they get that US because the business registered in Trinidad and Tobago. So when they give them that US to buy that business, and then they give our next businessman $300 million US to buy a chemical plant, then it have a few fellas on a board called NGC take up $235 million, give a contractor where all the indicators and research say that is not feasible. But the board asks for indemnity to free themselves, and they ask for emancipation to be free from jail. So I only hope the listeners could interpret. I tell them nothing straight out. I want them to sit down and think what I'm saying. And then, you see, when they give them nearly a whole year of sewer water, and then it have the misfits on them say that SIS take $1 billion and go on with it, because the wastewater plant, where that money is for, is course overrun. But today now, you're hearing that the EMA come out and telling WASA they have a fine to pay if they don't get the act together. So I want Fitzgerald Hines to say why he went in national security, collect a check, and the PS had to say what that check is for. So I wonder if that is the check to complete the wastewater project in Beatum. But far too long, them as the supporters still run back. And Karim trying to tell them, vote for he. Just imagine, he going so mad that to vote for him, he will take care of them. And it's just only 100 days they're out of office, and they didn't help them at the time. What Karim want to say, Karim was on the executive and the PNM party group to deliver for the people, because he had it to be, he was serving there. And you tell me he didn't have a vision for the area he was elected? So which means we had to buy a torchlight and give Karim, because he lost the way, plus he can't see way in the daylight. So you see, my brothers and sisters, what Uncle Lennox is saying, that under the Kit Rowley administration, they play politics with you. And Marvin Gonzalez had to ask, why it is, answer this question, why it is $5 billion is on TNTech book or in NGC. That $5 billion wasn't paid to no company, you know. It was used up. And see where the black brothers and sisters benefit from that. WASA had a rehabilitation upgrade to do it currently, because when the water come down, the mud intake on the pumps and them, then Cora project. Then he gone Granville to do some drilling, and he say, you upgrade water that the whole of South have water. Yeah, only when rain fall. And then you see, he make a whole hullabaloo, but how much African people get water and upgrade up on the hill? While this water running through all the community, up on the hills, still using outhouse. And you see, the Emancipation Committee have a part, and they hold the bull by the horn, and I'm not going to hold it by the tail, I'm holding it by the two horns. They have a part to play with the development of the African diaspora. Because far too long, they was telling the African brothers and sisters, holy bull by the tail, holy bull by the tail, right? And you see, just imagine, this caller could tell my African brothers that when the Indian Prime Minister came to Trinidad, he said that if you can identify yourself and what from your East Indian grandfather and them, you could get a piece of land. I qualify for that. And Eric William, take away all the identity and take away all the progress. And far too long, my brothers and sisters in the African diaspora, they play too much games with all you, suffer all you, and nothing to this day to show, nothing in education. And once upon a time, do you know that the African diaspora was leading in education, medicine, and in agriculture? The three basic things that we need our economy to grow on. And you see where all the reach back today under PNM, but see where all the children reach. Them that's what they have to just eat and drink what they want and do what they want. They not a sent to study where it's coming from and see where all the left. Uncle Lennox, peace and love to all your listeners, and let's show the love. And your greatness will shine. And you hear, we look at it now, we see the love where Rowley keep back for 10 years, the spiritual love is awakened. And that's to show Rowley and the PNM, always sit down and Interpol looking for him, that God is looking for him. Have a nice night.
Same to you, my friend. Same to you, my friend. Let's go straight, of course, to the handset. President, good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hello. Good night.
Good night, my friend.
This is San Fernando.
Welcome, welcome. Yes.
Yes. You missed me for the whole week, right?
You what?
Because I said you missed me for the whole week.
Yes. I hear you.
I was in the village in the Emancipation Village.
Oh, I see. You had your duty called.
Yes.
Yeah. That kept you up, I suppose, and busy.
Yes. That's
Okay.
right.
All right.
No.
Understandable. You are a man of the culture, and
yes.
very learned indeed in that regard. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah. I want to refute certain statements that some people were making about the Emancipation Village and the Emancipation Support Committee.
Yes.
And maybe the statement that was made, the statement of statements that was made by the Culture Minister, Michelle Benjamin.
Yeah.
I don't think she had said anything derogatory or wrong, because yes, the Emancipation Support Committee needs what I should say, more should be done, and always more really should be done. But the situation is not that it's difficult, because what happens is that during the year, now some people feel that there's an issue was raised, several issues were raised. One was let me just deal with the $40 that the Emancipation Support Committee was charging people to come in, which some people say that it was turning back people, and some people say it was also saying that this thing should be free. But remember, to run a program such as this, it's costly.
Yes.
That's the first point I want to make. And
Yeah.
the second point I want to make about the charging of that money. Now, a lot of people don't know that the Emancipation Support Committee have meetings every month, open to the public itself, right? Now, most times they either keep it online, or you go to the Maraval House, where you can make your contributions. Right now, that issue with that money came up already in several meetings.
Okay.
And I remember that at one time it was $20. It
Okay.
started at that, right? Now, So, and there were several arguments as to whether they should charge or not, right? But in working out the cost of what it costs to run the program, right? You could actually see where, if they don't make the effort to do something, right? They could run at a loss.
Yeah, I hear you.
Right? So a lot of people don't know about these meetings, right? And they just bumping the gum or talking, right? Now, the other point to that is that when you look at it, right? What came out of it is that you can't charge the $20 or the $40 for the whole day. So the Emancipation Support Committee decided that if the village is opening at, let's say, 10 in the morning, from 10 to 3, you're free to come in. Right? After 3 or 4 o'clock, then you pay the 40.
All right, so right? there was some kind of compromising, apart from the fact that the price itself would have been a subsidized price.
Yeah, right.
All right.
And the thing is, they didn't want to go overboard with it.
Okay.
Right? In terms of charging a high fee to come in.
Yeah,
right?
because
So
I mean, if you price at market price, it's prohibitive, and those we are targeting may it will be, of course, a turn off, because it will punch a hole in the pockets. Go ahead.
No. Most people like myself had suggested already that during the year, right, funds could be raised by doing different things, right? Now, you remember, this program is a big program, and it needs to be marketed. And marketing is where you will spend a lot of money to really market the program.
Yeah.
This is where maybe the government can come in to help market the program abroad, right? Now, the thing is, the PNM itself, I don't know what to say about them, because probably they have no, the last culture minister, in terms of promoting the program outside of Trinidad, right? We weren't seeing that, right? No, it takes a lot really to promote it outside, and it should be promoted outside in order to attract foreign exchange to the country, right? No, you see, and I don't like to go down the road really of just criticizing Mr. Rowley for criticizing Mr. Rowley, but when the criticism comes, you have to really talk and say, because look at it, he went Ghana, right, and nothing came out of that Ghana thing.
Yeah. We got 1,000 head of yam.
Yeah, you understand? But now we have a new minister of tourism, and he is opening the door, right? In terms of getting Trinidad and Tobago into the foreign markets, right? For instance, he went Ghana, I think it's Ghana they went, and the same Ghana, how it is, right? How it is that this minister or this government could do much more than just, and Rowley just going to Ghana, and we got nothing out of it. So now, we could see the promotions coming even with the Emancipation Support Committee, because it will create opportunities once you start to promote yourself as an entity that, what I should say is cultural, because we are rich in heritage nation.
Yes.
Right? You understand?
Yeah.
And the people in Trinidad and Tobago, I believe, have the talent. I taught at the YTEP institution, and I was one of the founding members of the YTEP thing before they turned it into YTEP, right? And you can see the talent coming out. If that program was kept, also our workforce would have been,
of course,
one of the best.
Yeah, well, it's nothing different to the laptops, where by now we would have had laptop technicians, we'd have people who, of course, at will and willy-nilly and all over the place, developing the skills of creating apps for different operations and making life a little more easier, and and you could also export it. But I want to ask you a question as well. The minister, you made reference to it. The minister said that the Emancipation Committee, in other words, she was a bit taken aback and a bit concerned that not only was it not being well attended, of course, this year's program chose hot water on that argument, but more importantly, it's not being marketed. It should be, of course, marketed as a tourist attraction, and all of that was the concern that she would have had, and of course, suggesting that the monies that the government is putting out may not be appropriately spent. But then the Emancipation Committee, they retorted by saying she was in fact, of course, talking either out of ignorance or ill-informed, because it's only 20% the government provides to the Emancipation Committee to manage that particular event. One, and two, of course, their books have always been well audited and in time, better than Tobago House of Assembly and some of the other regional corporations and I should say state enterprises as well. So well, they did not, of course, touch on the question of the tourism product, but certainly the Prime Minister did, which we're going to look at in a while, in terms of the diaspora and in terms of making the African continent aware of what is happening in Trinidad, and inviting, of course, some of the personalities from the continent, from the motherland, if you want to call it that, to, of course, invite them to this function, this occasion, to share with us some of their own thoughts. I just wanted to get from you, being a man in the culture, very deep, and of course very traditional as well, what would have been your view on both what the minister said and the response of the Emancipation Support Committee? Go ahead.
Well, let me put it this way to you. Both sides are correct in what they're saying, you know.
All right.
The minister is correct in what she's saying, and the Emancipation Support Committee is correct in what they are saying. Okay. Right? Because let me tell you this. To do a production, as you would know, anything you're doing, you don't see it. There's how to say it. In the background, there are people who are working very hard in the Emancipation Support Committee to bring this thing off. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Right. So they're not wrong in making the response. The minister herself is not ignorant of certain things, because she
would have been informed that somebody might have written that speech for her too, because of people who might have been in the ministry and around for some time, because she clearly is a neophyte in terms of the time that she would have gotten and be in charge of that particular ministry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the important thing here is to look at this too. I would go down the road of saying, okay, both of them are not wrong in what they are saying.
All right, okay.
There's a third dimension to it, and that third dimension happens to be the ignorance of the how should I put it, the public. The majority, most of the people, sometimes when you talk to them, right, they are not aware of certain things.
All right.
And I could give you several examples, right, of what happened to me in even Best Village or that same Emancipation Support Committee village, right? Now, let me explain why I'm saying that the general public itself is not aware of certain things. I am an honest person, right?
Right.
I want to say myself, I'm not boasting, but over the years in doing craft and all these kind of things, right? I have never stolen copper, right, to do my work. In fact, what I would do is, I remember when I first started doing copper work, copper jewelry and that kind of stuff. You know, copper was like about $40 a sheet.
Right.
Right? 1 foot by 48 inches. Right?
Yes.
That was about $40 a sheet at that time. That's about over 15 years ago or so. Now, that same size of sheet is about $650.
All right.
So, I will have to, now, I registered my business, and I will have to put out a lot of work, right, to make these little items and wall plaques and stuff like that.
I see.
So, right, so let me just come down to why I'm saying that the general public itself out there is not, is ignorant of certain factors. I had a table or a booth at the same village in Emancipation. Okay? With spread out with all my jewelry and my stuff and my copper work and stuff like that. My registered name was stuck up on the wall. And one particular guy was passing. That happened the year I think Rowley was with the scrap iron thing. Remember that issue?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Now, one thing there is that while having my table that same year that scrap iron issue came up, right, this guy was passing across in the booth. And when he saw the copper work, his first response is, you know what was his first response to me?
You read some of them cable. You want that cut cable? People working hard in the night cutting the telecommunications. Authorities.
So,
Yeah.
No,
Cable,
it's
yes.
It's a good thing I had a partner next to me. Otherwise, I'd have slapped him in the face. Because
Yeah.
my
You're
partner had a whole
You're
lot
lucky. You're lucky he go as far as to call the police for you. First, yeah. That's all. But let me ask you this finally. I spoke of the seasonal nature of the activities, and the hyping up. It's not a culmination. It's not a, at the end of the year. Is a period that people wait for, and about a month they then of course burst into these activities surrounding emancipation and the culmination thereof on Emancipation Day itself. My question to you, are you satisfied, or because I am not, that there should be, of course, regular perennial activities to raise or to sustain the consciousness of the African community? It mustn't be hyping it up around this time towards the 1st of August, and then of course it dies a natural death, so to speak, or artificial death, and then of course resurrected around the next time when the 1st of August comes around. What is your view?
Okay,
briefly.
My view is this.
Yeah.
It's not totally true to say that they are not doing things during the year, because you have the African quiz which goes on in the school.
All right.
Right? That's one.
Right.
And then they try to do other things, but as I say, things are costly to really.
Well, it means that if I am talking like that, it means that it is not well, as you rightly said, marketed or publicized, and therefore, of course, one cannot. Therefore, one conclude, as I have, that there seem to be a sense of not censorship, but an absolute dormancy until, of course, they burst into a flurry of activities leading up to, just before, and leading up to August 1st.
Well, which is not totally true. It's
Go ahead.
not totally true to say that they just look forward to this thing just on an annual basis, because they really try to do things, right? But yes, I will say that they have problems as any other entity. I too will have problems because sometimes my business go up. Sometimes there's no copper to buy in the country. Sometimes the prices, the price of copper will go up and I can't afford it.
All right.
So you find I might take longer.
Understand. All right.
To do things.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could find the solution to this problem in the address by Kamala Prasad Bisesa. So thanks very much for your intervention and your expertise, I should say, on the question of the commercialization and the popularization and the perennialism of emancipation, and therefore the consciousness among the African community in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much.
And let me just say one final thing.
Go ahead.
We need to find more people who are conscious and to do more.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying, because, as I said some time ago, there is, of course, a leadership crisis. I have no doubt in my mind, but I'm seeing some signs that would suggest that that is being addressed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yes, people. That was, of course, Mr. San Fernando. I thought I should give him a little laxity, so to speak, in order, of course, for him to expatiate as long as we can on this topic of emancipation and the commercialization of it, the promotion of it, the marketing of it, making it a tourism product, and, of course, more importantly, is to, of course, I wouldn't say brainwash, but to inculcate a greater sense of belonging and self among the African community in particular, because we are in trouble. You look at the jails and you will understand. You look at those who are either the victims or the perpetrators of home invasion, for example. You know, it goes without saying. But let us go straight, of course, to the statement made by Kamala Prasad Bisesa and see if there is some kind of salvation. I know that there is the whole question of Columbus statue being removed. It looks as though the mayor of Port of Spain has indicated that. The mayor of Port of Spain has indicated that, of course, and some appropriate other name will be given. But let's go straight, of course, to the statement made by Kamala Prasad Bisesa on the occasion of Emancipation Day, the celebration thereof. And, of course, very, 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 very interesting. Yes, of course, let me just read from that article. Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisesa has unveiled an action plan aimed at deepening cultural recognition, economic empowerment, and reparatory justice for the descendants of enslaved Africans. Very powerful statement, very powerful opening salvo that gives, of course, me a high degree of optimism. I've never heard that from, of course, Rowley and the PNM. Let me repeat that first paragraph. Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisesa has unveiled an action plan aimed at deepening cultural recognition, economic empowerment, and reparatory justice for the descendants of enslaved Africans. Wow, that is beautiful. Delivering the feature address at the well-attended African Emancipation Day celebrations at the Queen's Park Savannah, the Emancipation Village, Port of Spain, she said, yes, she said that, and of course, on honoring or respecting the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago, and lauding them as well for its local, regional, and global trailblazing work. She says as follows. To honor the committee's contribution, she announced that her government notice to honor her committee's contribution. So in a sense, what that has done is throw cold water on what the Minister of Culture would have said. So if there were anything that was untoward, she was able to polish it up by that statement. Welcome to the corridor. You are in the corridor transformation. Hello? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You're on the air now?
Yes, I'm on the air now.
So we talk tomorrow then?
Yes, we'll talk tomorrow. Okay then.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Yes. So she was saying to honor the committee's contribution or notice, of course, she would have thrown cold water on some of the, let's say, raw statements that will be made by the minister. So clearly, she has set the tone for the true position of the government. I'm talking about the Prime Minister here. And she went on to say, of course, she announced that her government would direct the relevant ministries to partner with the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago on a focused 4-point action plan to engender 1, cultural guardianship. Let me repeat. Cultural guardianship by expanding grants for drumming schools, mass camps, heritage archives, and digital storytelling labs. Oh, that is music to a fellow like me is. It means, therefore, the leadership will now have to respond to take charge of such initiatives, such overtures that are being made by the government. That is the point I am making. I expect that leadership will blossom, will mushroom in such circumstances. But it didn't end there because it's a 4-point plan. 2, curriculum restoration to embed African civilization, enslavement, resistance, and Afro-Trinbagonian achievement in the national school syllabus. Wow! Wonderful! Yes, indeed. So there is the perennial nature of it now coming to the fore. Because education. And there it is. She's saying that the curriculum there must be a restoration to embed African civilization, enslavement, resistance, and Afro-Trinbagonian achievement in the national school syllabus. Wow. 3, trade relinkage. To finalize the Ghana Air Service Agreement. So flights between Ghana and Trinidad, to finalize that agreement, launch a West African Caribbean Special Economic Zone. Wow! Yes, people, that is what I want to hear. That is what Wowley and they should have been telling us all the time. Look how I am motivated. I'm sure you are. So launch a West African Caribbean Special Economic Zone and dual list top SMEs on both the Trinidad and Tobago and the Lagos Stock Exchange. So to list these companies on both exchanges here in Trinidad from Ghana, and of course, because Lagos, of course, is the capital of Ghana. 4, the 4th plank of that initiative, that action plan, youth and food security, to kickstart phase 1 of the African Heritage Agricultural Center. Phase 1 of the African Heritage Agricultural Center and explore avenues for microcredit, crop insurance, and export license for young farmers. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What forward thinking, what motivation, what thinking out of the box, what, of course, encouragement. Let me read that fourth one again. Very important. Youth, listen. Youth and food security to kickstart phase 1 of the African Heritage Agricultural Center and explore avenues for microcredit, something that we are doing here right now, and something we have proposed in a particular way. I can't talk about it now. When, of course, once they agree, we will look at it. But it appears that they're thinking the way how we are thinking right here in East Port of Spain. Crop insurance and export license for young farmers. So that is as far as the agricultural part is concerned, but certainly microcredit will also be required for other aspects of activities that require, of course, as we said, the factors of production, land, labor, capital. That is what we're talking about, microcredit, capital, and of course entrepreneurship. People must be willing to become businessmen and women. Let's continue with this statement. The Prime Minister commended the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago's ongoing commitment to national development, highlighting its work across 3 strategic pillars. 3 strategic pillars. And I want to say, notice that when I was making the call for leadership, I did identify, of course, the Emancipation Support Committee, and of course expressing my disappointment. But of course, here it is that the Prime Minister is saying and recognizing that they need help to, of course, fulfill to the optimum, to the maximum, to the apex, to the ultimate, their commitment. Having, of course, been given the role or given the recognized role as leaders, because they, of course, facilitates and organize the Emancipation Day celebrations in the main. Not that they are not smaller groups in various pockets of the country, but certainly in terms of major, this group is it. So I am very, very heartened now that the foundation has been laid for proper, and if you want to call it that, focused leadership and activities that will truly bring rewards to the African community in all its dimensions. Let's continue. So she said that along 3 strategic pillars. 1, cultural vanguard. So through awards, lectures, films, school visits, and heritage tours that inspire young and strengthen national unity. Wow. 2, economic bridge builders. Let me repeat, the other pillar, strategic pillar, is economic bridge builders. With 25 years of trade and investment symposia, and have opened African markets, established an air link with Nigeria, initiated talks with Ghana, and developed supply chains via the African Business Group and Afri-Exim Bank. Afri-Exim Bank. So we are talking here about that capital part that is critical for what? For production. And here it is. Here it is. All of these institutions, the African Business Group, and you know there's an African Development Bank as well, I'm sure that will be embraced as part of this cadre of focus to develop the human capacity and the ability to acquire technology, skills, and know-how to manage business. Let me read that part again. Economic bridge builders is the second strategic pillar that she is offering to the Emancipation Support Committee by recognizing them, but of course, by extension, the African community. With 25 years of trade and investment symposia, so there has been, of course, some connection with Africa on the question of meeting and talking business to business, and therefore stakeholders, and of course, what I consider captains of industry clearly will be meeting. So she's saying that there are 25 years of that, and therefore it should now mushroom, manifest itself, evolve into something much bigger. So here it is, African, to have opened African markets, establish an air link with Nigeria, initiated talks with Ghana, and develop supply chains via the Africa Business Group and Afri-Exim Bank. And of course, I would want to add the African Development Bank. I'm sure that it is in keeping. That might have been a omission, inadvertently, of course. And then the third pillar, youth and food security pioneers. Through AFRA, training of out-of-school youth in climate-smart farming, the conversion of idle lands into green classrooms, and contribution to reducing the country's 5.6 billion food import bill while advancing 6 UN Sustainable Development Goals. Big ambition, people. That is the kind of thinking. It sends shivers down my spine, and my paws are raising for that. Just the statement alone. Of course, the proof of the pudding is in the execution. But certainly, it's a refreshing perspective, making, of course, the African community not just proud, but optimistic, and of course, willing to participate to make those pronouncements a reality. That is what this is all about. And then, of course, in her final part of her statement, she says she thanked the stewardship of the Emancipation Support Committee for its achievement, or its cohesive and vibrant and resilient, and its impact now lights the path for the wider Caribbean, because they have been touching base with West Africa in particular. Let us repay their resolve with decisive action, not applause alone, as she said. So not just to clap them every emancipation, but to, of course, do tangible things. Well said, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, Prime Minister. I'm sure the African community, those who would have heard that, would have been very receptive. And now that you're hearing it, only on the corridor transformation, that will, of course, spend some time on these matters, because we are developmental oriented, from, of course, Chagaramas in the west to Toko in the east in particular, and of course our friends in Lebre and Point Fortin, etc. We have not left you out. But certainly, the name of the program is the Corridor Transformation, but of course we are really referring to those persons and those communities, or put another way, those groupings of the society that dominate in terms of settlement along the East-West corridor, mainly the Africans. And there's more. Re-empowering the National Reparation Committee. So there's a National Reparation Committee that she would empower or re-empower, meaning that I suppose resources, technical and otherwise, to let them work effectively because there is more. Because she says that she'll be going, of course, to the Commonwealth Secretariat heads of government meetings to deliver a message. And listen to this. The Prime Minister also reaffirmed her commitment to the reparations mission, pledging that in her second prime ministerial term, her government will do certain things. But let's go straight to the line. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
How are you, my friend?
Yes, my friend. Pleasant news, pleasant news. Music to your ears.
I see you are very happy, man.
Yes, man.
Yes. So imagine this woman is here for 3 months.
It had to take us over 10 years, over 40 years to get this kind of focus, yeah.
But a man there for 10 years and he kept on for the 10 years.
Yes, man.
Can you imagine that? If you there for 2 years, what would happen?
I am sure some people would have been moved to tears, I can tell you that, because I'm almost moved to tears by just reading this.
I was going to ask you your opinion. What about this guy in this supporter? He's still there, imagine.
Repeat that, please.
I said I was going to ask you the supporter Spain, he migrated out.
Oh,
Mr. Porter Spain, man, who did he call him?
Mr. Porter, Mr. Porter Spain, at least he has a conscience. He knows when he's beaten, and therefore what he has done is out of sight, out of mind approach, I suppose.
I wonder how he will feel to hear all of this.
Yeah, I wonder true. You know, he should make an appearance, but of course one that is of a positive nature, because we have been asking him over the years to, of course, see the glass half full, and of course understand the reality of the situation. Rowley and the PNM cannot go indefinitely engaging in evil and diabolical and mismanagement, corruption, nepotism, and could do so in perpetuity. If he was listening, he would have known that we always said that evil could never prevail over good. And while, of course, he believed that the PNM will prevail, the PNM, since it is evil, cannot prevail over good. And that is what transpired on the 28th of April.
Yeah, so I joined the conversation because I like to try and do it.
Thank you.
That's it, I'm not putting my head to it.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So you take care.
Yes, my friend. Thank you very much, of course, for that intervention.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue, of course, with more food for thought and, indeed, more inspirational words and motivation for the African community, coming from, of course, the Honorable Prime Minister on her presentation at the Emancipation Day celebration up at the Queen's Park. Yes, those who believe that she should have been walking and so on, I think what she would have delivered compensate. I mean, it was Confucius who said that the longest journey begins with a single step. Well, I think she has almost completed the journey, even though she didn't take a single step. Physically, of course, I'm talking about. So let's continue, of course, with the Prime Minister's presentation at that August function. The Prime Minister also reaffirmed her commitment to the reparations mission, pledging that in her second prime ministerial term, her government would, 1, re-empower the National Reparation Committee, 2, support CARICOM's charge at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in October. So in October, the Commonwealth will be meeting. She'll be going to that, of course. The present opposition leader, Penelope Beckles, and Marva, whatever his name is, Gonzalez and others, hoping that there might have been some ailment, why they ain't seen her and so on. Well, when she came out, she was resplendent. and like an angel just land inside of that savannah, and she lit up the place by her verbal expressions would have sent shivers down the spine of any conscientious African, and of course elated their spirit, and to be extremely optimistic as a consequence. Utopia is here. Utopia is here, people. So she says she will support CARICOM's charge at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting this October, pursuing debt relief, developmental financing, and binding institutional reforms. So, reparation on the one hand, and then of course countries like ours that were the recipient of these people coming from Africa called slaves, our ancestors. She's saying that at that meeting with the more developed countries in the Western world, she will be making a plea not only for reparation, and locally she would re-empower the National Reparation Committee. So there is a committee on that subject. So one will expect financing and all of the other technical support and material support. She says that she will support CARICOM's charge at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting this October, pursuing debt relief, developmental financing, and binding institutional reforms. Binding institutional reforms, what does that mean? Well, for some it may be a vague term, but for some time, the third world countries, the South countries, you have North-South divide, as far as the world is concerned, they have been asking for institutional reform. And of course, what comes to mind easily is the World Bank, IMF, yes, and of course in the region, we're talking about, of course, the bank that, of course, is considered to be for the Western Hemisphere, the American Development Bank. So that is where, because I can glean that, I can confirm that, because that particular paragraph pursues, of course, debt relief as well as developmental financing. So it could only mean that those institutions, even though she didn't mention them specifically, certainly will be the ones to be targeted, because they determine to a large extent the development pace of any country, almost every country, almost every country in the world, that are members of that bank, the World Bank, IMF, and of course in our case the Inter-American Development Bank. Right, so that is clear. Pursuing debt relief, well, it was ECLAC, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, that institution based in Chile, in South America, several years ago, talked about debt relief for 6 of the Caribbean countries who were reeling from debt repayment and the tragedy that it would have, of course, imposed on the people for their own contrary to their own development because of the debt burden. I think it was Grenada, St. Vincent, Barbados, who were reeling from a debt to GDP ratio of close to and on and above 100%. 100%. So that every dollar that the country would have earned, they would have to pay a substantial amount of cents from that dollar for debt relief. I shouldn't say debt relief, but debt payment responsibility. And so ECLAC, I remember very distinctly, was asking for debt relief, meaning that forego the debts, don't let them pay. Because remember, if a country doesn't pay, as Rowley used that implement, that instrument. But for, of course, as usual, sinister and destructive and self-aggrandizement and self-purpose agenda. Nothing to do, of course, with the economic circumstance of Trinidad and Tobago, when he said that one of the reasons for him, because there were several reasons afterwards, one of the reasons for him closing down Petrotrin was that he had a over 800 million bullet payment debt. And why we know it was hogwash he was talking, why we know that it was deception, why we know that it was getting the entire cabinet to, of course, save him from the criminal investigation that would have been launched as a consequence of the fake oil matter, which his name and his cousin, somebody like that, name was involved. Shut it down. Mash it up. Get the people out. All the witnesses and so on who would have now to focus on working out a living. Go to other parts of the world to practice their skills. They calculate all of that. So that the people who would have been responsible for receiving the fake oil would no longer be around. Dulki Singh, he disappeared. The man from the Petrosian side that, of course, was receiving all the oil, but going, of course, to almost every day they say he buy, of course, AV drilling, the other side of it that was producing oil, that after that situation burst, after that became public knowledge, he couldn't produce the huge amount of oil that he said he was producing after that incident, and the appropriate, of course, evaluation took place. They couldn't produce it again. So we know it was a scam. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night to you, Mr. Lennox Smith.
Same to you, my friend.
Everybody, I mean, like happy Independence Day. Happy Emancipation Day, my bad. Saying independence.
Well, you could say that too, because independence has a element of emancipation. So no problem if you say that. All right, go ahead, my friend.
But anyhow, Lennox Smith.
Yes.
Right, so here what's going on. I have a friend of mine, right?
Yeah.
And then I had to thank her for the wonderful staff that she went Kenya and bring back from me. I was sending you a picture to show you how I looked last night.
Okay.
In going 14, I was sending you a picture. But watch out, here I want to find out. Is it possible that we could get connected flights, direct flights from Trinidad to Africa? Because when I hear the kind of money you have to spend to go to Africa, you have to take a plane to go to America, and then you have to go England, and then from England you have to go Africa. Can this government find a way?
Well, I could only express my optimism, because the Prime Minister said that they will be looking to, of course, finalize these direct flight arrangements.
Yeah, man. Because you see, when the average African person in Trinidad get to leave the shore that Trinidad, they go and understand how the wider world is look. The mindset will change. They no longer will be thinking in the box that the PNM box us in for the past 15 years. And I say it's about time we break those mental slave mentality thinking where the PNM is concerned, because I tell people, The last time I went this emancipation activities in Point Portland was 11 years ago. So I finally emancipate myself basically from the PNM. That is how I happened to went on the road last night. But if PNM was in government, so you feel I was going anywhere? After all these things that they did, especially the black people, fool black people to thinking that CPAP and URP is the best job that you can ever have. Lennox these people and watch out. I just waiting for blue lights and silver braces to take these people and them.
You more anxious than me, boy? Boy, I am the most anxious man in the world. I'll make him a business and visit.
Lennox, I have some spare steel and I also my me. Anytime they're going inside the Bella prison, I will bring the steel and I have it to help fabricate some of them prisons for them, you know.
You're going real far, boy. You're going real far. I can't be that one. But go ahead. I can't be that one. I'm only limited to my anxiety, so it's within my my consciousness. That's all.
And mind you, let me top it up before I go. I have blue lights and all home here waiting for them to flash it in the face, you know. I just waiting for the word right now. I have blue lights and all waiting for them. Locked on and listening.
Yeah, man. I hear you, my friend. Yeah. So and people, of course, with respect to that, is now what? Now 41 minutes past already. I doubt that. Let me just take out my glass. 41 minutes past, boy. What? Let me just tap here quickly. To respond, all right. Let's go straight to the line. To respond to the call, let me just say this. Of course, the Prime Minister talked about, of course, establishing links with Nigeria and Ghana by flights. Go ahead, caller from.
Good night, Mr. Lennox.
Yeah, from
yes,
Laventille.
good night,
Go ahead,
Mr. Lennox.
Good night.
Yeah, first let me say happy emancipation, you understand, to everyone in the country. And secondly, right, I'll try to be short as possible.
Yeah.
You know, that AVM fiasco with Rowley and the fellow who ran away now.
Yeah.
Nobody can see it, right? The government, the anti-camps and them can get a case to be open. The jail them fellas and them boy.
Yeah, criminal matters are not has no time by not statute bar generally. So so I expect that can be. I expect that it's probably going on as we speak. That's why Rowley is so timid and so paranoid.
Yeah, the man make a serious jail boy. Yeah. Because this man come and lie. He lied to the country and talk about $800 million bullet payment. He talk about one set of nonsense he was talking, and Petrotrin was actually, he and them was making a profit. They was literally making a profit. You understand? Despite of what Malcolm Jones did. You understand? So I couldn't understand when he made that statement. And you know, get me vexed about all of this? Is that man had the gall and the audacity to come down here in Success School down here, right? And talk about weaning yourself off the government and the people of Trinidad and Tobago are stupid and all this kind of nonsense talk. Just imagine this is a man who's supposed to be a prime minister.
Typical criminal, you know. Yeah.
Talking this nonsense. And he feel now he had nothing to do sunset with $87,000 and $1 million in back pay. You understand? And
the last scam that he perpetrated in leaving.
Yeah.
Scam on the people, yeah.
He had to get locked up, boy. He and the gang, them had to get locked up. You see, this last minister of finance who were couple, who had Dan Paul. I see him in the Senate day, he's very jumpy. And I like what Alan Roberts tell him. Because he truly blame on short man, you know. He say it wasn't he. You understand? Yeah. So I watching all of them in the parliament there because I do some millions and looking at them in the parliament now and see the mischief. You understand that all of them running for cover one way or the other. But them have to make a jail in this country, boy.
Have to.
Them have to make a jail. Anyway, I'm going to Mr. Lennox. Have a blessed night, my brother.
All right, let me. I wonder. Call back. Sorry about that. I inadvertently, of course, cut you off. The other caller that was waiting. But let me just. Okay, let's go to the lines. Pleasure. Good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Mr. Lennox. Report here.
Yes, man, go ahead.
How are you going? Happy Emancipation.
Same to you, my friend. You see, I am basking in the revelations of the Prime Minister, and as an African, you know, I feel extremely proud, elated, and ecstatic, and of course, expecting. Go ahead.
Well, here what happened. As a supporter of the ground report for so many years, I am not happy.
All right.
Because I hear all kind of people name calling, all kind of organization name calling. What happened in the ground report? Forget after election. Everybody just forget the ground report and forget those three guys from the ground report that was in the trench for so many years. But you have to bad talk the Prime Minister, the leader, Ms. Kamala Persad, and the UNC before they could choose you. Answer me.
Well, I know that certain things are happening, and I don't want to engage. Whilst that is your observation, I respect that, but I will not respond at this time. Let me put it that way. Go ahead.
Well, just how you complimenting everybody, I want to hear you compliment the ground report for the hard work that they was doing for so many years.
Well, yes. For that, I could make a comment. Yes, there is human service. I mean, when we look at pushback 1, pushback 2, pushback 3, pushback 5, when we look at tear gassing, when we look at locking up in the heights of the COVID, etc., and of course challenging the then wicked administration, doing it on purpose. When we went up, of course, to San Fernando, we couldn't march, even though we said it was a pilgrimage. The police was brutal and very, what I can say, coercive, and of course was prepared to utilize the powers that would have been given to them to force people to do something that they normally would not do, because the purpose was, of course, to highlight the ills of the then PNM government. So we have come a long way, done a lot, but as I say, I'm not going to comment. I hear your observation, but I'm not going to comment on it.
Okay. Well, in San Fernando, the police was marching instead of we.
Yeah. They were waiting with the riot batons and the scarf the scarf and their shields, and maybe waiting in the wings for some of the tear gas police officers as well.
Because what I noticed, a lot of the people who was bad talking the UNC and bashing Ms. Kamala Persad just before election, all of them get something.
Well,
they have something to do, they have some position, and nobody from the ground report, I hear the name called nowhere. That's what I'm trying to hear. I want to hear that, how powerful the ground report, what the ground report do to achieve for this government to get back power. I want to hear.
Yeah.
I hear all kind of people getting. All kind of people getting something.
I want to say, generally speaking, success breeds success, right? And Mikey would normally say that a friend is when, of course, you are in danger and the person runs in, whilst, of course, everybody leaves. I am making the point to say that generally when success is obvious, what you have, especially in the context of Trinidad and Tobago, because that has been my experience, and I can say so without fear of contradiction, when, of course, when Kamala won in 2010, we saw all kinds of individuals coming out of the woodwork and so on and saying that they were here and there, and quarreling and so on and looking for positions and so on. I've seen that. And while, of course, I'm saying that I am in a better position, and should I say part of the coalition, my party part of the coalition, and therefore have a bird's eye view as to what is happening, And I know that certain things are taking place, but that does not take away the fact that there are those who would be opportunistic and therefore will run and may get favor before those who would have clearly and unadulteratedly and pellucidly should have been considered at least long before those individuals who have come out of the woodwork. But there are other social and psychological and decision-making dynamics at work that will cause such a what I consider to be inequitable situation to take place. So I am very, very accurate about that. So that has not stopped me from working. Nobody in Trinidad and Tobago could boast of our employment and resource center, for example, immediately after the 28th of April. Nobody else. And guess where? In a very hard seat, I'm talking about Port of Spain South, very hard seat right here on George Street. And when we started, when Philip Alexander came and opened the facility, we had 400 on record. Now we have over 1,000 persons on record. The point is how creative can we be to service these people in spite of the fact that the government is maybe not in a position as yet to lend assistance. But because of our commitment to the cause, and I made it very clear to the Prime Minister at one time when Andy and I alone had a discussion with her, and there was a particular issue that had to be addressed and was being addressed there in the presence of people like Wayne Mark and one or two other persons. And I said in no uncertain terms that I have not received a cent, but I am not talking to you or making reference to that because I'm looking for money. No, I'm saying this. I told her that I'm saying this because of my commitment and dedication to the cause, and I believe it's only the UNC, you, and of course the philosophy, the ideology, and the capacity to transform Trinidad and Tobago. And I was a bit selfish too, because I was really referring to my community, Laventil, etc. Some people say, well, what the hell you're studying them people for? Well, I had to study them even more so now, because when we thought Marcel would have been, of course, some kind of shining light, we see that, of course, he is one of those, he is an addendum to the degradation and the deterioration and the retrogression of the people there, and therefore, by steadfastness, must continue, of course, to shine bright and loom large. I am certain, and I have no doubt in my mind that at the end of the day, these efforts will be recognized by the present government, and in the fullness of time, things will materialize. Of course, there are those who, I take your point that you would have liked to see it even before now, and probably like yesterday, like tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, but I am an eternal optimist. Go ahead.
I just say it that from the time this government get into power, the first three people they're supposed to acknowledge is you, Mikey, and Andy, because I was with Olio all the time from day one. From pushback one, I started with Olio.
Yeah.
And Olio was good to me, helpful to me when in my disaster, and it is now for I to recognize Olio, and I wish Kamla Prasad Bisasa could recognize Olio, like sometime tonight, by morning, I hear something good for Olio. And I wish she could support you in what you're doing there. Because I was there, and the little time I sat there, the amount of people I see come in and out and asking for some kind of advice, some kind of help. And I was how to say it?
Yeah,
out
over
of
a
this
thousand
world.
of them, over a thousand of them. And the point I am making is that nobody in Trinidad and Tobago has been able to do that, right? Whether that should be converted to a kind of recognition that would satisfy what you're saying. Again, the decision is not mine. It is, of course, the leadership, and I implicitly trust the leadership and the leadership of Kamala Prasad Bisesa.
I agree with you. I agree with you, right? And what I was happy about, that you doing what you're doing there, what I see you doing, out of nothing. And it had people, was in that area, was in government for years.
Oh, yes.
And they didn't see it fit.
They calling me an interloper now. Because they see in others that which they cannot do, so they start to cuss and call people interlopers and so on. It's not a matter of interloper. Take your money, put your money where your mouth is, or put your resources where your mouth is, or put your creativity where your mouth is, and do a similar job. The more the merrier, so that if you do it on your side, of course, not too far from here, I do it here, it means that more people will get service. In fact, before I started this program, about 6 young men came to me. Mr. Smith, we hungry. They can't go by Scotland and say that. And I had to tell them, well, listen, boy, things tough, maybe by the end of the week, so on and so on. But I am committed, and they know that, because so long as they say they're hungry and their belly hurting them, I am there to, of course, assist, because I believe that human beings are not vehicles. They can't be put down for oil or gas, as the case may be. You have to eat. And therefore, when they come that way,
yes,
I will certainly, once I have, and sometimes I beg. I don't have, but I'll beg to give them. But as you rightly say, if, of course, I am provided with some resources, now that we are in government, man, you making joke. I'll make this place go wrong.
Well, I started tonight, and I will be continue talking on all your behalf.
Yeah.
Because
whatever happens, the party will benefit, the government will benefit, all of us will benefit, because we would have been doing what we were elected to do, right? And it really would be a tragedy if, of course, there are those who are doing beyond the call of duty, and that effort is not being recognized as it ought to. So that is why I make no commitment. I make no commitment except to say that I await, and I am certain that in the fullness of time, things are going to pan out. And at that point in time, of course, we will be able to deliver more for and on behalf of the government, and to make sure that the government remains in office for time immemorial. I ain't even putting a time frame. That is to tell you. Saying that it should be in government for the rest. So long as there's a Trinidad and Tobago, there should be, of course, a government called the UNC, even though, of course, the players may change. Because, none of us are here to turn stone, including myself. All right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I hope that more of the supporters that follow corridor transformation,
yes,
the ground report, and the observers kind of try and talk out on behalf of these guys.
But yeah, and as you say that, I didn't think about that. That's a unique thing as well. Andy would have been the creator of Real Media TT. I would have been the creator of the Corridor Transformation. Mikey, of course, the Observer. And all of that was designed to do one thing: to keep the message of the UNC, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, and all of those persons who rely on the party for one reason or another, to keep that message and pit it against the PNM, destructive agenda. And I think we have come up very, very successful. That level of creativity I have not seen in any other country, where you have 3 guys and Africans in particular. If we were of another ethnic group, the PNM mash we up long time and get us off the air, as they have done with others. They have not been able to do us that. And we understood that. And then what we did, we carried the fight to them on a consistent basis, and we were creative, whether it be, of course, pushback, whether it be creating some organization, or indeed this nightly program. Because look, I don't have to be here. I don't have to be here and listen to the topic that you have raised, but I don't have to be here. And here am I, fighting the cause. All right?
So this is what, over a period of time, I keep thinking.
So thank you for the concern. Thank you for the concern. I want to see that. Because that came up in the budget consultation as well. I see people started saying that I am ministerial material, and there's a lot of clapping and so on and so on and so forth, endorsing that and so on and so forth. But as I said, I trust the decision of the Prime Minister in particular. The party, of course, I believe is sufficiently conscious of what has to be done and what is fair, because if we are in government and fairness and equity and justice is a foundational principle, then it's just a matter of time before Andy, Mikey, and myself get the recognition that most people would think we deserve. All right?
I hope so.
All right.
Because you, Andy, and Mikey was the merger. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
The merger between Indian and African. That's how I see it. And without all you, I don't know who could have get the African people to come across to the UNC. All you did a great job, and I want to see all you rewarded.
All right.
You said to give it some time. Fine, I would give it some time.
All
but
right.
I would always refreshen this thing until
I hear you. I mean, you have to use your discretion.
Right?
Not wrong with that. All right. Thanks very much.
Right?
Yes.
You take care.
Yes, man. Gosh, it's 10 o'clock, people. It's 10 o'clock, people. People, of course, we'll finish this wonderful presentation by the Prime Minister tomorrow, because I think it deserves another shot, another exposure. Yeah, it deserves another exposure because, I mean, let's face it, this is revolutionary. This is food for thought. This is elation galore. This is a time when we should be celebrating big time. So I will pause here for tonight just to say, of course, we have come to the end of the program. It's 10 o'clock. Sorry about that. I should have cut off half an hour ago, but the discussion started late but intensive, but nonetheless, we have been able to triumph. That being as it may, of course, have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. See you tomorrow night when we will continue, of course, with those splendid and optimistic and, of course, far-reaching pronouncement made by the Honorable Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisesa for and on behalf of the African community on Emancipation Day. Yes, indeed. I think there's a tune that I want to close with. Let me see if I get it. Yes. I don't think I wanted Ella Endel, but I think Signs of the Time might be another good one to end with. Signs of the Time. Let's hear this.
come this world get so corrupt and cursed? Things have changed, cause it's not like before. Man's life in turmoil, with disaster and war, for sure. With the nuclear this and the nuclear that.
Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked came against me to eat up my flesh, my enemy.
Mankind had behold the first sunrise. This world to him was like a paradise. But up to now, to his ways he never take heed. Now he's at war with himself because of his greed. I read, when they dropped the bomb in Hiroshima, in history it is